You're listening to Three Kitchens Podcast, a member of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. Now let's get cooking, because I'm starving. Today's episode of Three Kitchens Podcast is brought to you by the Edmonton Community Foundation.
The Edmonton Community Foundation helps people create endowment funds. You can start an endowment fund yourself or with a group. Once it reaches $10,000, it can start distributing funds.
The Well Endowed podcast, hosted by Andrew Paul and Lisa Pruden, tells the stories of how these endowments intersect with the community and explores how the foundation acts as a bridge between donors and charities to create a strong, vibrant community for generations to come.
Learn more at ecfoundation.org.
Hey listeners, just a quick heads up to let you know that this is part 1 of a 2-episode release to kick off season 3. We're so excited that you could join us and that we're back in our kitchens. Get your appetites ready.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Three Kitchens Podcast. It is our first episode of season 3, and we are really excited to be back at it. I am one of your hosts, Heather Dyer. I'm here with Erin Walker and Sarah Somasundaram as usual. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
And we're really excited because we have special guests, and we've been wanting to talk to you guys since we met like a year ago. And so we're really excited about this. We have local shepherds, Janna and Ryan Greir, owners and operators of Whispering Cedars Ranch. And we'll definitely have you guys tell us a bit about yourselves, but you're located southeast of Calgary, right? Where you raise lamb in a way that focuses on the health and safety of the animals and the environment. Does that sound about right?
That sounds exactly right.
Yay! Welcome, Janna and Ryan. We're so happy to have you here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So it's really nice to connect with you guys again. As Heather mentioned, we met you guys at a farm-to-table dinner that was hosted by Poplar Bluff Organics last year. And we actually got to enjoy some of the lamb that you produced and a few drinks. And we've been wanting to get some more lamb and talk to you guys more about your lamb farming operation ever since. So we're so happy that you could come and join us. We just kind of wanted to start out with having you guys tell us a little bit about how you became lamb farmers in Alberta.
It can be a little bit of a long-winded story, but essentially Ryan and I grew up on Vancouver Island, and various things brought us to Alberta, but this is where we call home now, and we always knew we wanted at least an acreage for our children. And once we got a few sheep, we kind of just fell in love with the idea of shepherding and caring for the animals. So it's grown from a few sheep to a lot of sheep. And we have about 400 breeding animals, and so we sell lots of lamb product throughout the year. But it's been a journey. It's been really exciting to do together, and we have an emphasis obviously on providing really good breeding stock to the industry, but also supplying a lamb product that tastes good and people are excited to eat. So,
and then most recently we've launched the vegetation management, which we can get into in a bit, and we're excited to add that part because we think it adds it aligned very closely with our goals and values, and it's going to add a lot of value to our community and to the expansion of renewable energy.
Right. That's exciting. So why lamb? What attracted you to having lamb?
We initially thought cattle, and then kind of had some not so pleasant experiences and just thought about the whole safety piece, especially knowing that we wanted to start a family.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And so, sheep are pretty, calm, gentle, easy animals for the most part. I mean, obviously there is a little bit of safety concerns when it comes to, having mature rams and things like that. But we wanted an animal that we could work around, that would be, safe enough for our children. And then, I mean, just the overall capital expenditures to get into cattle versus sheep. I mean, you need bigger equipment a lot more
Right.
land.
Okay.
Land's a big challenge for where we are. I mean, we were both working full time, needed to be within proximity to the city, and first generation farmers, it's tough to find land. So we're just on a 100-acre parcel where we are now, but this opportunity for solar and doing the vegetation management. So having the sheep being able to mow the grass under there just really has opened up more land base for us to allow us to grow. Like I said, we're first generation farmers, so being able to access that land is huge.
Yeah, no kidding. So we've noticed when we have meals, lamb isn't like a common meat that we see served to us. So we were wondering why isn't it as common as it is in other parts of the world?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple different reasons for that. I mean, we've definitely seen demand grow in Canada, and that's largely in part just a more ethnic community being developed and growing in some of the bigger cities, especially in Ontario. Toronto specifically has become a large demand center for Canada. But I think with time, we're also seeing a shift in mentality. I mean, this is a perfect example, your show. People being more experimental and wanting to try different meats. In terms of availability, because most grocery stores are under a federal mandate, they're getting them from federal inspection plants.
Okay.
So really, it's not that there isn't lamb available in the area. It just may be that those grocery stores need to meet a certain regulation. So you may see either from a federal plant, there's one here in Alberta and some in Ontario, or you may see it coming in internationally from places like New Zealand, Australia, and Ireland.
Yeah, that's what we notice all the time, is that it seems to be international lamb. Like I've only just recently noticed it coming in locally.
Stores like Co-op have been really great in that they've made partnerships with the federal plant in Alberta and promised to deliver Alberta lamb. So they've got a partnership where you'll see Alberta lamb on the shelves.
Okay.
But not all grocery stores have that. And then it really comes down to seasonality. So production in our industry is dependent very much on weather and patterns and grazing, and depending on different operations, there's a glut, we call it, between certain months where it's very, very difficult to produce lamb.
Okay.
So that's kind of where you'll see, in order to meet the demand throughout the year, you'll see an influx of international lamb and vice versa.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And what do those months tend to be?
So in terms of production, basically it's difficult to lamb. What would you say typically?
It's harder to have lambs born in the fall. So if
Okay.
you're going to have fall born lambs, I mean, there's some extensive management on that end, but
Right.
it means that kind of throughout later fall and into the winter, there's like a shorter supply available.
Okay. So do you sell most of yours then fresh? How do you sort of manage your product?
So we actually get it back frozen. We've been going to the same local butcher facility for almost 10 years now, probably.
Wow.
They're really not far from us, which is nice, but I drop them off in kind of larger groups. And then depending on, what we have for, reservation list, some people will pick it up there, but most kind of pick it up at the farm gate. And when we get it back to us, typically it's frozen.
Okay.
But yeah, it's basically it's dropped off there and I'm picking it up within a couple days. So
and to be brutally honest, we have customers that have said, we really want it fresh. Well, in terms of fresh, you may have, if you're getting an entire box, so 50 pounds, you may be taking one cut or two cuts and having those fresh, but you're going to freeze the rest.
Right.
It's like, unless you're coming out for a couple cuts, and for us, in terms of the demand, we can't set those aside, obviously, because we don't know how many people may want those cuts and so on and so forth. So then we don't want to see our product go to waste. So that's kind of why we've gone that route. Of course, at the butcher store, where you have lots more clientele coming through, you can kind of leave some cuts out,
Right.
and meet that specialty, but
it doesn't stay in the freezer very long here. So
yeah, exactly.
Which is good. I mean, in terms of freshness, it's a frozen product, but it's as fresh as you can get it.
Yeah, right, exactly. Oh, interesting.
So you had mentioned that you have a 100-acre space and about 400 sheep
Yeah, so our main ranch is just under 100 acres. So we're just east of Strathmore, Alberta. As we look to grow, we looked at lots of different areas, but as Janna mentioned, we kind of fell in love with Strathmore and area, and because of our employment here, chose to remain in the area versus, of course, land is cheaper, further away from a city center,
Right.
but we were okay with, leveraging our off-farm income to stay closer to the city centers. And that's really also helped us in terms of meeting new clients and yourselves, and just being near a city center.
People like to drive out.
Yeah.
we've met people from all over, and I think just having that proximity to Calgary, they're like, oh, it's not that far.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're going to go to the farm to pick up your meat, you don't want to have to go way out, like a nice drive. Sure. Yeah.
Totally.
So how much lamb are you producing in a year?
So our breed's a Canadian developed breed. So it's a cross of a whole bunch of different heritage breeds developed by actually the government of Canada, which is really interesting. Once upon a time, they had a program out in Ottawa to develop some Canadian sheep that they felt would be conducive to our environment and
I see.
how we do produce animals, and also just lengthening the breeding season for the reasons that I mentioned, to produce lamb more around the year, around the calendar.
Oh, wow.
So our breed has a higher lambing average than most. So if you said that a mature ewe would have triplets on average, so if our flock was fully mature, you could see as much as 1,200 lambs a year out of those 400 ewes.
Wow. We continue to grow every year. Our base flock started with just 60 purebred animals we bought from Saskatchewan, and we've grown just from within through our own genetics and bringing in some options for AI, but essentially we've grown it ourselves. So a lot of our animals obviously are younger. We're keeping a lot more younger animals every year. So the amount of lambs we produce every year changes as well. So
okay, so what's the mature age?
So when Ryan's talking about those averages for producing 3 lambs per year, you're kind of looking at a ewe who's in her second year of lambing at least. Okay. We have had first timers who have 3, but kind of ages 2+ is when you kind of see those higher multiples. And so most of our animals are definitely younger now.
And what happens when they age out? I'm thinking like when they're relative to my human age, when I'm not
when they're done having kids.
So there actually still is a market for those products. Ryan spoke to the ethnic populations that's actually their preference. So
that'd be mutton then?
Some ethnic communities prefer mutton versus lamb, and then some, it's amazing. That's something that we've really learned. I guess it's likely similar in some other species, but lamb certainly has a wide variety of different markets that can be leveraged, but mutton's certainly one of them. I would say in terms of age, that's tough. I would say kind of after 7 years, we're evaluating that, if not earlier, depending on other variety of factors. But probably after that 8 years old is when production's coming down, and it's just, they're getting older. Yeah. And then that market is very variable. It is, and it's very low compared to lamb. So you're kind of trying to, I guess, work with vendors on the best time of year to make those decisions, those what we would call the culling decisions. Right. We also see an opportunity in that because, of course, the price of lamb is high. There's opportunity with mutton to create a product, with feedback from customers that not only increases our value as a rancher, but also increases availability of local meat for our local population.
And why not? I mean, mutton was eaten widely at one point.
Absolutely.
I think maybe it got a bad rep during the war because that's all they ate. But before that, it was a thing to eat.
Absolutely. And honestly, it can be good. There's nothing wrong with it per se. I think it did get a bad rep through the war. Soldiers and others were forced to eat it as they called the flocks to make up for protein throughout the war. And I think that has carried on generationally. There's been a bias where people may not even try it for the first time. Because their great grandpap told them how awful it is, and I would never try that. And we always say that the hardest customers are the ones to try it for the first time or the ones to try it for the second time, because they had a bad experience either at a restaurant where they paid $30 and didn't get a product they were happy with, or they went and bought it at a grocery store, took it home, and either were challenged cooking it or just didn't meet their expectations. So or they don't try it for the first time, and you just cannot convince them, myself included. I'll full disclosure, when we started doing lamb, I had it maybe twice at restaurants, and I just didn't, it wasn't cooked well, and it took Jan a lot of convincing to get me to try it again. Now I can't get enough of it. It's
awesome.
Amazing.
And that kind of leads me to the next question, because that's something we learned from you guys when we met you last year, was that the taste of lamb and the texture of lamb can vary quite a bit depending on a few things. Did you want to explain why that's the case?
It's extremely variable, and that's both a blessing and a curse in our industry. It can vary much by breed, and there's probably 100 breeds.
Oh, okay.
So you look at beef, for example, they've really honed in on a smaller amount of different breeds, and then that's really helped them with consistency, whereas sheep has such a wide variety of different breeds that you could get crossbreeds and variety or inconsistency in the actual meat itself and the cuts. And then secondly is what's put in determines what the product that comes out. So
what they're fed, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. So for us, what we've focused on and really what our customers have appreciated is our grain-fed finished lambs for our area and for the clientele that we have right now. That is a preference, and so that's why we've really had a high quality, or what our customers have given us feedback is a very high quality product. That said, I have nothing against grass-fed lamb. It's something that we've often talked about providing as a second alternative, but they're very different flavors.
Interesting.
And textures.
So it's important for the consumer to know a lamb is not a lamb is not a lamb.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with any of them. There are markets for all of them. So by that, I mean a fattier lamb that's grown out bigger may be a preference to some, whereas a grass-fed lamb with little to no fat is a preference for another. So it's not that there isn't a market. It's just understanding that when you say you've had lamb and it was good or bad, there's a lot of other layers to that, like a wine.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variables from start to finish.
Yeah, so we just try to keep it simple. They're essentially fed, a ration of just some whole barley, and we add a pellet in there that just increases the protein a bit and makes sure that they're getting the correct vitamins and minerals. And we've really honed in on that over the last couple of years, just in terms of the health of our animals. So we've really made a big focus on spending a little bit more to make sure that they're getting the requirements and the best minerals that are available to them.
Right. So just for the listeners, like, we realized the last time that when we ate your lamb, something struck us about it. It wasn't very gamey. How would you describe your lamb, like the flavor compared to?
We've heard that a lot, or people say it doesn't have that aftertaste. We get that quite a bit. And I think that again goes back to obviously the breed that we have. They're typically, a leaner animal. The feed that we give them is very consistent, and the end product that we send to market is consistent. It's pretty similar in terms of weight. So we're sending the same product every time. And I think that's what people are looking for. And so, I think there's, like Ryan alluded to, there's a lot of things that can kind of change the flavor and the texture of the meat that you're eating. And that's what we have found that our clientele prefers. And that's usually the feedback that we get, is that it doesn't have that taste that they're expecting. So it's been funny over the years. We've had people, even family that are, I don't want to eat lamb. I don't want to eat it. I'm nervous about eating him. He's one of those people.
Yeah.
So before we started this, I mean, we had both kind of had an experience where we, it wasn't really our preference. We didn't really seek it out. And so having a product that, we consume and we're proud of to eat is what we really wanted to offer. And so I think we've changed a lot of opinions over the years. And
if you can convert yourselves,
yeah,
then I feel like you can convert anybody.
But I think I would add, though, that again, just to keep it wide open, that gaminess is preferred by a lot of people. So we've also had people buy our product and go,
flavor.
They're almost weirded out that it has a white marbling like a beef versus what they would have typically experienced at, in their homeland, where it lays down a yellow fat because it's grass fed or because it's out on a different, pasture or whatever the case may be. So then they'll actually go like, it was weird and it tastes, it wasn't enough flavor, quote unquote. Like, so, flavor is in the eye of the beholder. It can vary lamb to lamb in every situation. I mean, and that's why we're super excited to work on developing a grass-fed product, because if we can rotationally graze a certain amount of lambs out at our solar site, for example, that might open an opportunity to have another product for those that maybe it's even a split pack. You can try, grass-fed.
No, that's smart. Yeah.
And then you tell us what you prefer. We'll have that available for you moving forward. So all things that we've definitely been brainstorming, but certainly we lent towards a grain-fed white marbled lamb because that is the typical consumer preference in our local area.
Well, and lamb in Canada is basically classified as anything under 12 months of age. So, we've, throughout this journey, we've tried to, to cater to people who, maybe that's not their preference. And we've had people where, I'm happy if an animal, isn't quite producing for us. I'm happy to send, a 2 or 3 year old animal who's perfectly healthy, but that's what they prefer. And we've sent those to butcher as well. And then the feedback from that is, wow, this is fantastic. It's so good. This is what I was looking for. So the door isn't necessarily shut on, this is the only product we have.
Right. It keeps growing.
I was going to say, it's amazing how diverse a single thing can be, right? Like it's the age, the feed, everything can create completely different products.
And as a consumer, then you have to find, where is the lamb that I like? And how do I get it? Because especially if you want the consistency on your table, like if it's like, I like this type, this flavor, I want it to be that every time I buy it, then it's hard when we have very little selection in a grocery store.
And especially when you don't want to give it a second chance. Right?
Yeah. And even not to keep throwing curveballs, but even grain finish can mean something different. In Alberta, we have oats and barley readily available. In Ontario, they have corn readily available, and it's going to lay a different colored fat and have a different flavor, which many people prefer because that's what they're used to. So it's and that's not often laid out, and that's probably our biggest challenge as an industry is everyone goes to the grocery store to grab quote unquote lamb, but it doesn't say this lamb is this and this finished with this. Is this breed?
That's unfortunate, right?
I was going to say you need to make a placard that goes up at the grocery store that's like, here's what your lamb category is, so that you know what you're getting, because education's everything.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the best way to get that consistency and to get the product you're wanting is to seek out local farmers, find out what they're doing, if they have the product you're looking for. And I mean, supporting those local farmers to find a product that you really want. So.
And talk to them and find out more about lamb.
ATB was built to help Alberta businesses, from CEBA applications to lending information, debt consolidation loans, or deferrals.
Whatever your business is facing right now, ATB is here to help with expert advice.
And with today's economy top of mind in business, stay up to date with the Future of podcast, hosted by ATB's chief economist, Todd Hirsch.
To learn more, visit atb.com.
Yeah.
Well, we were lucky enough to try the lamb, and I can say I loved it. It was
we really
good.
enjoyed it. Yeah. And I honestly, I think I've eaten lamb maybe twice in my life. Like, it was not something that I grew up with.
Yeah, we typically, We consume 2 a year. And my parents are on board now, and they're friends, and my brother and his fiance live close by. And like I said, we've kind of converted them all. But
That's awesome.
what's interesting is, getting people to try it and hoping that they'll change their mind. But I mean, we had a party here this summer where I was telling Aaron, one of our big things here is to do kind of those Greek pitas.
Yeah.
Put all kinds of fixings, and it's basically like a Greek taco essentially. But I went out and actually bought a bunch of chicken, worried that, our guests weren't gonna, if they don't like it, at least they have a second selection. And then nobody ate any chicken. the entire lamb was gone, and there was all the chicken was there. So we ate chicken for a few days after that.
Yeah.
That's good.
I had the same situation just a few days ago. I had friends over, made lamb kebabs and chicken kebabs because one of the guys hates lamb. It's like, nope, never going to eat it. All he did was eat the lamb.
Yeah.
We've played a trick on a few different family members in terms of serving it. We don't say it's not lamb, but we also serve red meat at the table, and they just keep eating, and they're just like, this is so good, where do you get it? I'm like, well, it came very locally. And, and then of course they're converted and they'll eat it again. So
that's awesome.
It's it's been fun in that regard for sure.
We're also trying to work on, like Ryan spoke to earlier, just having a value added product, something that's different than, having a lamb chop. So, having an opportunity maybe for some sausage or something like that, where people might be a little bit less apprehensive, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Do you have a favorite cut or like a go-to recipe? How do you eat? I mean, aside from Greek pitas, how do you like to prepare it?
Honestly, lamb's actually a lot more versatile than people think. I mean, you cook it very similar to how you would cook beef. Some people prefer it well done, so to speak. I mean, same with a steak, but we kind of cook it around that medium mark. And honestly, it's all kinds of ways. It grills really well. It roasts really well. It's like I said, it's so versatile. There's so many different ways you can do it.
One of our probably go-to cuts, which is ironic because it's probably the most challenging to get at a store, is the shoulder chops
or shoulder steaks,
shoulder steaks, depending how different people call them different things. But essentially, we mark them as shoulder chops, and your typical lamb chops are quite small, whereas a shoulder chop is actually quite big, and that's where a lot of the marbling is. So I think at restaurants it's not really a first date food in terms of the marbling, so they don't serve it, but it's so flavorful and it's so good. Like I'm drooling thinking about we're gonna have it. And then honestly, we just barbecue it. In the early years, we used to just like spice the heck out of it, and everyone told us to eat it with mint jelly. So we went and got a thing of mint jelly, and I think we've got a 10-year-old thing of mint jelly, and we took 2 scoops out of it, and then we never used again because you don't need it. Like I think the historic.
They've hidden the flavor.
Historically, the two things that happen are it got overcooked for no reason other than for whatever reason people thought it couldn't be cooked like medium rare, which is where it's best. So it was overcooked, and it was over flavored because people were afraid of tasting the lamb. Like all the recipes that we were shared in the beginning was just like, make sure to cover up basically the taste. It's like, well, what's the point? Like, and of course, in the early years, I that's how I thought. I thought the same thing. That we got to just cook the heck out of it and spice the heck out of it. But what we've gone back to the basics, and basically now we just throw it on the barbecue, and
we grill it more often than not. Or if we're having family, I'll throw a leg of lamb on a rotisserie on the barbecue, and like it's really good. I've done all kinds of flavorings, kind of stick to the whole Greek thing. I've gone and thrown kind of more flavorful spices like cumin and coriander and that kind of thing, and just I've spiced it so many different ways over the years that it's funny now. I go to my brother's house for dinner and they'll make lamb and ask me to spice it, and I just kind of throw a bunch of spices together. It takes on anything really well. I've yet to find something that doesn't taste good with it.
The other one that we really enjoyed was doing like a bed of onions in the bottom of a crock pot, and then just dumping in like a Guinness or dark beer and just slow cooking. It's just to absolutely die for. We haven't done a stew in a long time, but Honestly, doing like an Irish stew has been pretty amazing.
Yeah, a lot of people actually do, shepherd's pie actually
right.
started with sheep, right? So there's a lot of people that make,
why is that new to me?
Like it was new to us too. We're like, oh, you're so right.
Why am I surprised by that? That's hilarious.
It was today years old when I learned.
Shepherd's pie was actually from sheep.
Oh boy!
I'll give away a secret. It's our number one way of busting into markets at restaurants is
there you go,
calling it out, going, that's weird. I've never heard of a shepherd's pie with beef. And then the waitress or the chef will just be like, oh yeah.
Oh dang.
Well, we've got some lamb if you want to make a real shepherd's pie.
You got the icebreaker going.
Even they make really good burgers. With the ground lamb or meatballs. Like it's pretty.
And we try, like when we have customers come out for a rack of lamb, we always try to throw in a shoulder chopper because everyone's so stuck on that being like the only cut to eat. Honestly, it's not even our preference. It's delicious and amazing, but there's so many other cuts that people don't even realize exist. So we always try to plug those and have people try some other cuts because once they experience other cuts, and it's also like economically the rack is just the most expensive part. That's how the cutout works. So once they have an opportunity to cook other pieces, and it opens other doors. So
I actually had a guy meet me at the butcher last year because he wanted the whole thing fresh, like as soon as it was able to go, because he sous vide the whole entire lamb into bags. Like the whole
wow.
Yeah, he said that's what his preference was, and it was easy for him to cook. So yeah, he did the whole thing that way, which I thought was interesting. Honestly, it cooks so well in so many different ways that we're not really shy to try it. So, and
we have lots of recipes on our website. We always look to customers to provide recipes back. Obviously, we love hearing feedback from customers on how they've cooked it and been successful with it or not, so that we can coach them. And we've got that. Also, Alberta Lamb Producers was kind enough to create basically little pamphlet cards. So when especially for first time customers, we always do an envelope of, I think it's 8 or 9 recipe cards. Basically they can try out that were created. I think it was by a chef for Alberta Lamb Producers.
I'm hungry.
I know. We could talk recipes and food like all day, but we are aware of your time. And so let's maybe move on.
Yeah, no, that's great. So I read a little something on your website about sheep milk.
There it is.
There it is. Sorry.
Oh no, you've made them nervous, I think.
Or do you want to tell us about anything else new that's going on?
No, I can because it's out there and it's exciting, but it's still in the works. So being able to access sheep dairy has always been something we've come back to over the last decade and thought, I don't know if you've ever had sheep cheese, but it's amazing. So being able to develop, alternative dairy products as opposed to cow's milk was something that we kind of always thought was a bit interesting. So we worked with our veterinarian last year. The end product of that was a completely different breed than we currently have.
Okay.
And so that allows us to kind of get into the sheep dairy market a little bit. So it's kind of in the works. Obviously, it takes time to develop enough animals to be able to do that. So, but I think the end goal, we constantly come back to it, is to have a dairy sheep breed that we're able to milk and make additional value added products like cheese and ice cream and all those fun things. So,
because in the last season, we found somebody who makes an at-home cheese making kit that you can order.
Cheesemaker. They're called Cheesemaker.
When we talked with her favorite type of cheese was a sheep's cheese called Manchego.
Manchego.
I'm sure I'm saying this wrong.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. One of us is, or both of us.
When she talked about this sheep cheese, the first thing I said was like, ooh, do you think Janna and Ryan will make sheep's milk, or do you think we can get sheep's milk from them? Because this sounds amazing. So I don't know. When I saw that, it set off the alarm bells of excitement for me.
Yeah. So. And because we asked her when we were doing this, and she was trying to give us local sources of different types of milk, whatever kind of cheese we were making.
Yeah.
And there weren't a lot of sources for sheep's milk. She was sort of like, not really
Yeah.
sure.
It was an I don't know.
So once you've
Yes.
got that on your menu, then maybe they can direct people locally here to get it from you, because it is hard to find, right?
Absolutely. And that's part of it. We've been asked a lot over the years, chefs, restaurants, just local people, maybe with kids that have, are unable to enjoy, the typical dairy products. So that's kind of how we first got into it, was we wanted to provide that for others. We've been navigating that and worked with lots of government officials on what we need to do and so on and so forth. And then of course, Janna mentioned the closed flock. So it's not a fast addition to add a whole different breed. We have milk dairy to Arcots, and they do provide quite a bit of milk, but just not the volume that you would need to actually cash flow, specifically a dairy operation or enterprise. So we're going to start small. We've got 30 East Friesians on the ground. So that's a German dairy breed.
Oh, cool.
Obviously, it will take some time until we would actually be milking them. And then we're going to hold back and select the best of the rams. And then that will allow us, if we wanted to scale the dairy enterprise, it will allow us to crossbreed into our Rito Arcots to create a dairy cross. And then off we could go. So
Wow.
Cool.
Man, that's a process, eh? I mean, it's very interesting to hear, but that's a lot of work.
There's a lot of like population dynamics going on here with
Yeah.
the demographic of the sheep you have that you want to
And who's the
produce, and
best.
the time and
Yeah.
the
Totally. Farming has always amazed us. I mean, it's, the joke is that you're a CEO, a marketing official, a mechanic, a shepherd, a veterinarian, a dairy operator, like, a nursery operator. Like, there's nothing you don't do. But, foresight is extremely important, and strategic planning. And, we pulled the pin on this. It was a huge investment for us because there's no payback for years. But we knew that we had to make the decision now in order to think about utilizing that in the next 5 years.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, whether we do or not, like, scale up that enterprise, we had to make the decision to commit to it now to be able to have the option later. So,
Yeah.
that is so cool. I'm really excited to hear
Yeah.
and wait.
Erin might need a sneak,
A preview, yeah,
a preview,
Well-
a jug of milk.
love it. Well,
She's so excited
We'll
about
start
it.
working together to make
you
stuff.
get the cheese kit, we'll do the
Okay.
milk, and we'll make some cheese. How about that?
Awesome.
You
Done
got
and
to share the
done.
cheese over
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
We'll show up when it's done, Heather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know who our first two customers will be, right?
Yes. So this is the fun rapid fire question. So sit back and enjoy. And
Whatever comes to mind. Don't think too hard.
Ding, ding. Do we got to put like a button in the middle?
so if you could cook or share a meal with anyone, dead or alive, real or fictional, who would it be?
A World War II veteran. Stick around. Yeah.
Janna, do you have a different answer?
I think if I could, it would probably be with my grandfather.
Mhm.
Ooh.
Totally.
Nice.
Had to choose one cuisine to eat for the rest of your life.
I know what yours is.
What would you say? Cheese.
Cheese.
I'm not sure if that's a cuisine, but she's probably right. That would probably be I would make it a cuisine somehow.
The cheese cuisine. I love that.
What about you?
Can I actually answer it without sounding cheesy?
Yes.
It would probably be Greek pitas.
Okay. Greek
That's
food.
why we have it
Yeah.
frequently.
Yeah.
Nice.
Peanut butter and
Oh,
Jam.
jelly for sure.
Strawberry jam.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, it's got to be strawberry. Okay.
Yeah.
butter or bacon. You got to pick one.
Bacon.
Ooh, bacon.
I actually use a lot of bacon fat for things. When we roast a leg of lamb, I like to put a pan of vegetables underneath. And my favorite is like Brussels sprouts and beets with bacon fat.
Mm,
Oh,
It's
that
Like the
sounds
best
good.
of both worlds, right?
totally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Butter, bacon fat can be used like butter. I wouldn't spread it on toast though.
No.
It's a Friday night. You're by yourself. Whatever you eat and drink today, no hangovers, no calories put on, no guilt. What would it be? What would your ideal meal by yourself be?
If I was fantasizing about it, it would be a barbecued shoulder chop and probably a really nice red wine.
Nice.
Oh,
Pinot Noir.
solid. Yeah, I'm with Ryan on the shoulder chop bit. That's honestly, it's probably our favorite. But
Really?
I'd probably be leaning more towards a nice cold beer and a tub of sheep ice cream.
Oh,
Well, you threw in dessert, but I would agree with that as well.
I get dessert too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think you need that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Where can our listeners find you? Tell us your website, your social media.
How do we
So-
get these shoulder chops?
yes. How
the
do we
more
get the
talk
shoulder
about
chops?
this-
I'm like so on board trying this right now.
In terms of reaching us, we actually shortened the link so that it's easier to say, but wcranch.ca, and that will forward you to Whispering Cedars Ranch.
We also tap into social media a bit. We have Facebook. You can find us Whispering Cedars Ranch, and we're also on Instagram, which I'm fairly new to, but I think it's w.c.ranch.
And then in terms of our product, I mean, we sell off farm. Obviously, like we have those conversations with consumers, and our website points you to who our most recent relationships are built with. So we have, depending on the year and the season, we have people that deliver as far as Canmore. And then of course there's going to be some, as Jan alluded to earlier, we're working on some value added products. And as those are developed, we'll release them, and those will be able to be purchased locally. And obviously we're hoping that partnership also allows us to supply those products off farm or through our other distributors.
Nice.
Sounds great.
Everybody go and buy lamb from these folks. We're going to. We have to figure out how we're going to get our hands on it so we can cook it. Yeah, and we're all going to cook your lamb, and then as the three of us, we're going to come back our experience with cooking and eating, of course, and how it turned out. We might need to make you a little takeout delivery.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been really, we've been so excited about it, and we're really excited to cook it and eat it, and hopefully all our listeners will also get on board and start eating lamb.
Thank you so much for having us, and we look forward
It's been fun.
to our cheese night and talking about some other
Awesome.
cool products as time evolves here.
Totally.
Yeah, and anytime you want to come back on the podcast and talk about what's going on and your products and what you're cooking, and we'd love to have you back.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And now for the fine print. Join us over on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Pinterest, and on our website at threekitchenspodcast.com. And remember, when you like, follow, subscribe, and review, it helps more people find us. Thank you so much for listening.
Like, hey, if you don't know how to cook it, you're going to learn.
We're all
And so
going to
are we.
learn.